The Jordan Show on YouTube.
Welcome back, everyone, to Robot Voices Deep Dives.
Yeah.
You know, today we're going to be taking a deep dive into something pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The world of plant behavior.
Behavior.
We got so many requests from you guys to cover this topic. We got some really interesting articles all about how plants communicate, how they remember things, and maybe even how they think. Get ready to have your minds blown because we're about to step into a world you probably didn't even know existed.
Yeah, most people, I think, when they see plants, they think, oh, just kind of sitting there soaking up the sun.
Right.
But the reality
And passive.
is way more dynamic and complex than that.
Oh, yeah. Way more. I mean, think about it this way. Okay, we always talk about the internet, right? Connecting people all over the world.
Right.
Well, get this, trees. They have their own version of the internet.
They do.
It's called the Wood Wide Web.
The Wood Wide Web, that's right.
Okay, so explain this to me. What is this Wood Wide Web?
Okay, so it's basically this network of underground fungi that connect the roots of trees together. Almost like fiber optic cables, for us. And through this network, they can share resources like water and nutrients.
So they're like trading supplies with each other.
Exactly. It's like a big underground market happening.
That is so cool. And that's not all, is it?
No, not even close. It gets even cooler. Trees can also use this network to send warnings.
Warnings? Like what kind of warnings?
Let's say a tree is under attack, like maybe by some nasty insects.
Uh-oh.
Well, it can release these chemical signals into the network, and that alerts the other trees to the danger.
It's like a neighborhood watch for trees.
Yeah, exactly. They've got each other's backs down there.
This Wood Wide Web, I'm telling you, it's blowing my mind. But how did these signals actually work? It's not like trees have mouths and they're like, hey, watch out.
Right. No, they definitely don't have little mouths.
Wow.
But they speak through chemistry.
Chemistry.
Yeah. They release these things called VOCs, volatile organic compounds, which basically act as signals.
So it's like their own special language.
You got it.
So if a tree is in trouble, it sends out these VOCs.
Right.
And other trees pick up the message through the network.
Exactly. And it's all happening silently underground. We're just oblivious up here.
It's amazing to think about all this communication going on beneath our feet.
Yeah. And it's not just the Wood Wide Web.
Oh.
Plants can sense their environment in all sorts of ways, like light vibrations, chemicals, even touch.
So like when a vine climbs up a trellis.
Exactly. That's the plant responding to touch, sensing the support and growing towards it.
Wow. And what about when a sunflower follows the sun across the sky?
Another great example, it's constantly sensing and responding to the changes in light.
And this is making me look at my houseplants in a whole new way.
I know, right?
It's like they're not just sitting there, they're actually aware of what's happening around them.
Totally. They're way more in tune with their surroundings than we give them credit for.
Okay, but what about memory? Can plants actually remember things? They don't have brains, right?
That's what a lot of people think. But it's not quite true. While they don't have brains like us, they do have incredible ways of storing information and learning from experience.
Hold on. Plants can learn. You're going to have to give me an example because I'm not buying this.
Okay, how about this? Have you ever seen a Mimosa pudica plant? It's also called the sensitive plant.
Oh, yeah. I've seen videos. It's the one that folds its leaves when you touch it right.
That's the one. Now, if you keep touching it gently over and over, it eventually stops folding its leaves.
Really?
Yeah, it learns that the touch isn't a threat, so it stops reacting. It's a type of learning called habituation.
So it's not just reacting on instinct. It's actually processing information and changing its behavior.
Pretty impressive for something without a brain, right?
That is amazing.
Okay.
So maybe they can learn simple things, but can they remember things for a long time?
Oh, absolutely. Think about how plants adapt to drought. If a plant goes through a really dry period, it can actually hold on to that information and adjust its growth in the future to conserve water.
So it's like, okay, I've been through a drought before. Better be prepared next time.
Exactly. They're planning ahead.
Fascinating. But how do they do it? Where are they storing these memories without a brain?
Well, it all comes down to molecular mechanisms. They store information in their proteins and genetic material. These signals act like reminders of past events influencing how the plant grows and behaves.
So even without a brain like ours, they have these intricate systems for remembering and adapting to their environment. It's incredible. Okay, so we've got plants talking to each other, they're remembering things, they're adapting. It makes you wonder, are they capable of even more than we realize? Could they actually have a kind of intelligence?
Now that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's talk about plant intelligence.
And controversial. I mean, some scientists, they say what we're seeing is just a bunch of complex responses to stimuli. It's not real intelligence. But there's more and more evidence that suggests plants might be capable of way more than we give them credit for.
Okay, so what kind of evidence are we talking about? What makes scientists think plants might actually be thinking?
Well, for starters, plants are basically professional problem solvers.
Problem solvers.
Think about a tree in a super dense forest.
Okay.
It's got to compete for sunlight, right? So it has to figure out how to reach that sunlight even when it's surrounded by taller trees.
Yeah.
That means making decisions about where to grow its branches, how to use its resources. That's totally problem solving.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It's not just random growth. They're actually strategizing to make sure they survive.
Exactly. And it's not just trees. Sunflowers, they track the sun across the sky all day long.
Yeah, to soak up as much sun as possible.
Right. But that's not just a simple reaction to light. It's a seriously adaptive behavior that suggests some level of information processing is going on.
So they're aware of the sun's movement and they're actively positioning themselves to get the most out of it.
Yep. They're sensing, responding, and problem solving.
Yeah.
It's hard to deny that there's something more going on there.
I'm with you on that one. And get this. Some scientists even believe that plants might be using quantum phenomena to process information about light and energy.
Quantum phenomena, that sounds pretty sci-fi.
I know, right?
It may sound like it, but it's a real area of research. The idea is that chloroplasts, those little structures in plant cells that capture sunlight, they might actually be using quantum mechanics to make photosynthesis as efficient as possible.
Wait a minute, quantum mechanics, what does that even have to do with plants?
Okay, so quantum mechanics is all about how things work at the tiniest level, like atoms and the particles inside them. It's a world where the normal rules of physics don't always apply.
Oh, I'm following.
And scientists are finding out that some biological processes, like photosynthesis, might be influenced by these quantum effects.
So you're telling me that plants might be tapping into these tiny, almost magical quantum forces to boost their energy production?
It's a wild possibility, but it's one that scientists are seriously looking into. And if it turns out to be true, it would totally change how we understand biology and energy. It could even lead to new technologies that are inspired by plants.
We started this deep dive talking about trees chatting underground. And now we're talking about the quantum realm. This is incredible.
It's mind-blowing, right? And it shows us how much we still have to learn about the natural world. And it's exciting to think that something as familiar as a plant can hold such deep mysteries.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Plant communication, plant memory, and the possibility of plant intelligence. But why should we care? I mean, it's all fascinating, but what does it mean for us?
That's a great question, and it's not just about satisfying our curiosity. Understanding how plants behave has real implications for everything from agriculture to ecology, even philosophy and ethics.
Okay, let's break that down. Let's start with agriculture.
Yeah.
How could this knowledge change the way we grow food?
Well, imagine being able to tap into those communication networks we were talking about earlier.
Wood Wide Web.
Exactly. What if we could learn to talk to plants? To help them defend themselves from pests or make them more resistant to drought.
So instead of spraying crops with pesticides, we could be sending them messages to boost their natural defenses.
That's the idea. A much more sustainable and eco-friendly approach to farming.
It's amazing. Okay, what about ecology? How does understanding plant communication change how we look at ecosystems?
It shows us just how important biodiversity and interconnectedness really are. We tend to focus on individual species, but plant communication reveals this incredibly complex web of relationships within an ecosystem.
Right.
Protecting these networks and preserving plant diversity becomes even more important when we understand just how much plants rely on each other.
It's like a domino effect. Mess with one part of the network and the whole system could be in trouble. So understanding plant communication helps us be better caretakers of the environment.
Absolutely. And then there's the philosophical side of things. The idea of plant intelligence, even if it's still up for debate, really makes us reconsider our place in the natural world.
You mean it challenges the idea that humans are the only intelligent beings on the planet?
Exactly. We tend to think we're at the top of the intelligence pyramid. But what if other life forms are showing cognitive abilities that we're only just beginning to understand?
Wow. It's a humbling thought.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other forms of intelligence are out there just waiting to be discovered.
And on an ethical level, it brings up some big questions about how we treat plants. If they're capable of sensing, communicating, and adapting in all these complex ways, do we have a moral obligation to treat them differently? It's a conversation we need to be having as we learn more about what plants can do.
It really makes you think twice about just plucking a flower or chopping down a tree. Maybe there's more to these actions than we realize.
Definitely. It invites us to develop a deeper respect for all forms of life.
This whole conversation has been amazing. It's like I'm seeing the world in a whole new way. Before we wrap up, though, I'm curious. What's next in the world of plant cognition? What are the big questions scientists are trying to answer?
Oh, there's still so much we don't know. Like, we're just scratching the surface of understanding how plant memory works at the molecular level. How exactly is information stored and retrieved in their cells? Can we use those mechanisms for practical applications?
Right. Imagine being able to program plants for specific traits or make them more resilient to environmental changes. That would be a game changer.
Absolutely. Another big question is how plants deal with all the sensory information they're getting. They're constantly bombarded with light touch chemicals, vibrations. How do they process all that data and make decisions about how to grow and respond?
It's like their brains, if they have brains, are always working overtime. They're master multitaskers.
And then there's that whole mystery of quantum phenomena in plants. If they are using quantum mechanics to power up their photosynthesis, what does that mean for how we understand biology and energy? There could be some groundbreaking discoveries waiting for us.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. This is such a cutting-edge field of research. What about practical applications? We've talked about agriculture and ecology, but I bet there are other ways this knowledge could benefit society.
Oh, for sure. For example, understanding plant communication could help us come up with strategies for restoring ecosystems that have been damaged.
Okay, how?
By planting certain species that act like hubs in the network, we could help damaged habitats recover faster.
It's like giving nature a boost, but in a way that works with the plant's own communication system.
Precisely.
That's so much smarter than just planting a bunch of trees and hoping for the best.
And on a more personal level, just understanding how plants behave can deepen our appreciation for nature. It encourages us to slow down, to observe, to really see the complexity and beauty around us.
I get that. It's like opening your eyes to a whole new dimension of reality. Instead of just seeing plants as background scenery, we can recognize them as active, intelligent beings that deserve our respect and wonder.
And I think that's the most important thing to take away from all this. The more we learn about the natural world, the more we see how interconnected we are with all living things. Plants, with their hidden world of communication, memory, and intelligence, they remind us that there's still so much out there to discover, to learn, and to appreciate.
I know, right? It's like we've been missing this whole other world that's been right there in front of us the whole time. And like you said, there's still so much more to uncover. It really makes you think, what other secrets are out there? What else don't we know about the natural world?
That's what makes science so exciting. It's all about exploring and discovering new things. And every time we learn something new, it changes how we see the world.
It's true. We started this deep dive talking about the Wood Wide Web,
Right.
that amazing network of fungi connecting trees, and now we're talking about quantum mechanics. It's like we've traveled from the forest to the subatomic world.
And we met all sorts of amazing plants along the way. Plants that talk plants, that remember plants, that solve problems. It's enough to make anyone rethink everything they thought they knew about plants.
I know I'll never look at my houseplants the same way again.
Yeah.
It's like they're watching us, listening to us, maybe even sharing memories with each other. It's a little freaky, but also pretty awesome.
It really shows you how connected everything is. We like to think we're separate from nature, but we're really a part of it. Plants aren't just background scenery. They're active players in the web of life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden world of plants, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I'd say the biggest thing is that plants are way more complex and amazing than we usually give them credit for. They communicate, they remember, they adapt, and they might even be intelligent in ways we're just starting to understand. So next time you see a plant, take a moment to really appreciate it, its beauty and the incredible world it represents.
That's a great point. And to our listeners, we challenge you to go out and see plants with new eyes. Pay attention to how they move, how they respond to the world around them, how they interact with each other. You might be surprised by what you notice. And who knows, maybe you'll even start to hear them whispering their secrets. Thanks for joining us on Robot Voices Deep Dives today. It's been an incredible journey into the world of plant behavior. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep being amazed by the natural world.